What's new? We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to follow up on what we did yesterday, in which we talked about some of the glaring things that the defense now needs to focus on in training camp. We're going to talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And it seems like as much as things change, some things stay the same. The Chicago Bears offense seems to be having its struggles here to open up training camp, and that really shouldn't be anything too surprising. This one comes from Adam Hogue, who says this: Ben Johnson got on Caleb in the first team multiple times and eventually pulled the entire unit in 7-on-7s after they couldn't get lined up twice in a row. He also mentioned that there's been no sign of Luther Burden as of yet. Sean Hammond says this: on the first play of the 11-on-11 at Bears training camp, Caleb Williams threw an interception that landed in the hands of Tremaine Edmonds. Bears defensive coordinator Dennis Allen: I'm anticipating Edmonds being an exceptional playmaker for us. A lot of people are going to like hearing that as well. So with day one of training camp in the books for the Chicago Bears, seems like Caleb Williams had a struggle. The offense had a struggle. Pre-lineup, pre-snap things. Just what we also heard in training camp. Throwing a interception on the first pass of the 11-on-11 isn't necessarily the most promising thing either, at least for the offense, right? And does seem like J.P. Richardson, who was a UDFA, had the highlight catch of the day as well. We're going to keep going. Bears Report had this to say: it was a light day overall for the Bears in the first practice. About 75-ish minute open to media. Wasn't a good day for first-team offense as Caleb Williams was picked off early. Like we heard, Tremaine Edmonds got him. Ben Johnson was visibly upset during 7-on-7 drills as the offense continues to struggle. And, you know, this is something that we've heard now for the last few years in a row. I mean, we keep hearing that the offense is coming into this struggling, and Ben Johnson is going to be pissed off by that, as he is an offensive-minded head coach, a former offensive coordinator that's taken over the Chicago Bears. So it's going to be, the Bears are going to have to get over this hump offensively. Now, these growing pains early hopefully pay off by the end of training camp. It is the first day of training camp. You know, we had OTAs, we had mini camps, things like that, but the Bears offense has to get all on the same page. They have to get all on the same page. And the fact that we have still not seen very much of no Luther Burden as of yet is a bit concerning. We do have Olamide Zacchaeus there, who's going to be ready to fill in. So only so much there to be worried about. But it is a sign of a little concern when it comes down to this team. And we'll see how that continues to shake out. But with this one, we also got some positive news. Haize Trillo worked with the first team again. Case Keenum was the quarterback too, and Nashawn Wright was in place of Jalen Johnson in the starting defense, with Jalen Johnson still being on the inactive list. This one comes from Courtney Cronin, who says Bears practice number one just ended. Went from 8:45 to 10 a.m. Rookies Luther Burden and Zay Frazier were not present. Burden appears to be dealing with injuries from the spring, landed on the ball awkwardly in minicamp, sustained a soft tissue hamstring injury in OTAs. Looks like Haize Trillo did take the majority of the reps at left tackle with the first team. From Bear Report as well, said while Braxton Jones, Haize Trillo, and Kieran Amagaje were all out there, it's good to hear that Braxton Jones is out there. It was Trillo that had the majority of the reps with the first team at left tackle. Kieran Amagaje was with the second team. Jones got a few reps with the first team, but it was a true ramp-up day for him, which we knew it was going to be a ramp-up. We heard that yesterday. It was going to be a ramp-up period for Braxton Jones. So now that we're not hearing like a lot about Braxton in regards to that, don't let that worry you out so much. But you know, there's going to be some concerns about Caleb Williams and interceptions. Accuracy was a thing that was a problem for him last year. We know he had the number of games without throwing an interception, but it almost seemed like he was kind of playing towards that a little bit, right? Now, afterwards, we did hear this, that Ben Johnson gave Caleb Williams some homework guidelines to work on over the break, spending 30 to 40 minutes to an hour a day in the playbook. Williams said if you can't give up an hour, 30 minutes to go over your playbook, you probably shouldn't be in this. So, man, it really sucks to hear this from training camp. Like some of the same concerns that we've heard over the last few years in regards to it, but no, it is what it is. I mean, it was some of the positives. Braxton Jones, Colston, Loveland were both out there on their ramp-up days. That's really good to see. Still no Luther Burden. It is what it is. Tremaine Edmonds, hopefully Tremaine Edmonds is going to have a big year. Hearing Dennis Allen say that he expects Tremaine Edmonds to be a big playmaker for them, good, great, right? If he can be that, that's great. Maybe he can solidify his future here with Chicago, because right now it is up in air. But overall, the offense is still struggling. And it sucks to hear. Now, we heard this at the beginning of last year, and then by the end of it, we heard that the offense kind of got the better of the defense in some practices, but the offense was a struggle to start the season, and it remained a struggle throughout the majority of the season. We had some bright spots last season as an offense, but for the majority of it, it's a little bit rough. And so hearing that it's starting off again in much of the same way, it's a huge concern. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to act like, oh, we shouldn't be worried about it quite yet. In most cases, if we had been this team that, had been a solid offense before, if we weren't learning a whole new playbook, all those type of things, I wouldn't be as worried. And let me temper that. I'm still not hugely concerned about it. I want to be clear there. I'm not at the point where I'm like, oh my God, let's worry, the offense is going to suck again. I'm just more so disappointed because you want this offense to fire on all cylinders. And I understand it's going to take time to get there. I love hearing that Ben Johnson has been fired up about it himself, because, he should be pissed off about it. Offense is his bread and butter. He is an offensive-minded head coach, and he is going to command execution on that offensive side of the ball. We've known that literally since the first day of rookie minicamp. We knew that that's going to be a thing. Ben Johnson is not going to allow the bad habits to build up too much with the Chicago Bears offense. He's not going to. So with Ben Johnson getting frustrated on day one of training camp, I'm going to look at it and say that that's the good part about this. There are several things good. Ozzie Trillo, Braxton being out there, Colston, Loveland being out there, those are good positive things to take. But the biggest thing is that Ben Johnson is setting a tone early of how he wants his offense to execute, how he wants his offense to perform. And you can't get that if you're just being passive about it. So him going off, getting upset, screaming, whatever it is, that's all good signs to me, because you need that. You need somebody. We brought in, we said we wanted a leader of men. We want somebody that's going to hold players accountable. We're going to want people, a coach who's going to command respect and execution and have a standard of how he wants things to set. And that's how things are going to be, man. That's how things are going to be for this team. And we'll see how they continue to grow and develop. But let me know your guys' thoughts from the first day of training camp. What worries you from what we've heard? What hasn't? Let us know all that down below. With that said, I want to follow up on what we did yesterday. We talked about one question at each position group on the offense. We're going to bring that over now to the defensive side of the ball for the Chicago Bears. And we're going to start out with the defensive line. And I think the biggest question on the defensive line to me is, do we get better and more consistent production from the interior defensive line? And that's everybody. Grady Jarrett, who has his own questions on his career starting to slide and his production starting to slide. Billings coming back from injury. Jaquan Dexter, can you be more consistent throughout this season than what you were last season? Had a very fast start last year. You tailed off. Can you be more consistent throughout the season? And how have you grown in that running game, in the run defense? That is a huge part of this next phase for Braxton Jones, is growth in run defense. If he can grow in that run defense, we may be off to something. But Jaquan has to step up in those areas. If he does not, it's going to continue to be ugly. And then other than that, who other than Montez Sweat steps up on the edge, right? Is it Deo, Austin Booker, Daniel Hardy? Montez Sweat got his own questions on his production and health as well, right? But you're looking overall for those things to all come together for the Chicago Bears this year, and let's hope so. Deo Odeyingbo is a huge question mark for a lot of Bears fans. A lot of Bears are asking if Deo was the right guy for the Bears to bring in. Is he going to be enough? But my biggest question comes in from that interior defensive line. I need to know that we're going to get that consistent production. We know in Matt Eberflus's system, pressure from the interior was like the backbone of what. That's why a 3-tech was so important to him. Now, I think it's going to be a little bit more balanced under Dennis Allen, but you still need to get that pressure. That pressure from the interior frees up your edges some, as much as your edges help free each other up by bringing consistent pressure. So that interior defensive line, can we get to the quarterback a little bit more? Can we be more solid in the run game for Jaquan Dexter? That's the question I have on that side of the ball, and we'll see. Jaquan Dexter and Deo Odeyingbo are the two that the impact that they bring to this team, outside of just what they're slated to bring on paper, is going to be so important to this team being able to get consistent pressure on the quarterback, be able to break up opposing backfields. Is going to be so important to that. Those are two guys in that starting lineup I am watching so much. Grady Jarrett and Montez, you kind of know what they're going to bring. even if Montez's production wasn't what you wanted it to be last year, you got to know what he's going to bring, right? You need you need that pressure, that other side, the Javon Dexter, Dayo Yingbo side. Really looking forward to seeing what that side is going to bring for the Chicago Bears. Next up, the linebacker. I think I've talked about this a lot, much like with the offensive line. Not only is it the third linebacker, right? Is Ruben Hippolyte or Noah Sewell going to win that job? But it's the depth that we have. We don't have a lot of depth at the linebacker position very much at all. We just don't have it. And so, I brought up a guy like Power Echols and what he can mean for the Chicago Bears linebacking core to provide some consistent and solid depth based off what he did in college. But he's an undrafted free agent. We can't even say for sure if he's going to make the team. I hope he's going to make the team. I'm looking at this depth and saying it's going to be very hard to keep him from making this team. But that depth at that linebacker spot, we know what TJ Edwards is going to bring. Tremaine Edmonds, even though he's been disappointing to his contract, has been fairly consistent in over 100 tackles, things like that, that he's brought to this Bears team. Of course, he can be better as well. But my biggest question is the third linebacker and the depth that we're going to have at the linebacker spots. That's the biggest question that I have for that position group. Are we going to have the consistent enough depth? Are we going to have consistent enough performance? Are we going to have those things? Because if we don't, it's going to get ugly out there. And so those are the things that I'm looking for. How does that depth stand up? And if Ruben Hippolyte does win that third linebacking spot, the starting linebacker spot, how much intensity do you bring? How versatile are you going to be under Dennis Allen's schemes and systems? That's why I'm looking for that linebacker spot. This is one of the most important position groups that you have in football. When you have linebackers that can be solid in coverage, solid in getting to the pass rusher, solid in getting to the running game, that line of defense there is hugely important. You got to be able to stop plays early, and we haven't always consistently been able to do that. That's what I hope that we're going to see now for this. Noah Sewell, Agbong Bing Mia. I know I always say amen. I cap out at saying his name, but that depth is going to be really, really important for this linebacker group. And you got to have that in droves, and they got to be consistent with that if you really want to have a team that's going to be able to really step up for you. And I know that it's something with the linebacking crew. Like, you got TJ, you got Tremaine. These are two veterans. You should be able to bet on them and feel safe in what they're going to bring to your team. And for the most part, you can. Even though Tremaine has been a little disappointing, he's been disappointing, you still basically know what he's going to bring for you. He's going to be pretty consistent in that. The interceptions dropped off hugely in 2024, from 4 in 2023 to 1 in 2024. But other than that, he's pretty consistent in things. You need that depth. There's so many questions. That linebacking core, there's a lot of question marks. The third linebacker, question mark. The depth, Noah Sewell, is going to be a question mark. Power Echols is question mark. Swayze Bosman, question mark. Like, there's so many question marks all up and down this that you're going to need somebody. You're going to need an anchor. And so how Dennis Allen and how comfortable he feels in this linebacking core is going to be really important there. And you got to lock in, and I guess we'll see what's going to be there. Now, let's get to the cornerbacks, right? I'm going to separate the cornerbacks and the safeties because I think they have two very different questions there. But one of the biggest questions that I have in that secondary is, what version of Tyrique Stevenson do we get, and how consistent do we get that? Because like I've said before, when you have people that are coming in and you're gearing up for a contract extension, sometimes it's not just about your performance on the field. It's about how much difference is it between you and the next person behind you who's not going to get paid as much money, especially as the Bears are going to have to spend some money on some other positions and things like that. Tyrique Stevenson is going to have to be consistent. I've talked about his stats. I've talked about his numbers. I've talked about his analytics, and those look pretty good for him more times than not. He's in the top third of cornerbacks in the league in most of those areas, and that's really good to see for him. But you got guys like Terrell Smith who already pushed him. You got guys like Zay Frazier who's coming in, he is picture made for a Dennis Allen system, even though he hasn't played yet. You have that's going to be there. These two guys, as well as a veteran in Nashawn Wright, and now Trey Flowers being here, if he ends up making the final roster, Tyrique Stevenson has to be locked in. He has to be. And I think that's going to be a thing that really looking to see how much Tyrique plays, or how well Tyrique plays, and how consistently he does it over the course of the season. Because the Tyrique Stevenson that's locked in, especially going to more press coverage, having more opportunities like that, this could be a season where Tyrique Stevenson really excels and quiets some of that talk that came rightfully so after how his season ended last year. But you got that. And then other than that, I'm just looking at Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon is going to have such a big opportunity here. Dennis Allen is going to he's probably going to line up in probably more areas and more coverages with more responsibility than maybe just about anybody on this team. How he's going to be used as a pass and run blitzer. How he's going to be used in coverage at times. Like Kyler Gordon's going to be all over the place. He's going to line up as a linebacker sometimes. You're going to see Kyler Gordon line up as a linebacker sometimes just to keep defenses on their heels. And the Bears made him the most I think the highest paid nickel or the second highest paid nickel in the league. So that comes with a responsibility. That comes with expectations, whether right or wrong. And so I'm also looking at Kyler Gordon. Now, I don't have as many doubts about Kyler Gordon. I think Kyler's somebody who excels at what he does. He got more free last year, and now he's going to be even more freed up under Dennis Allen's system, who he is picture made for Dennis Allen's system. And so now that's security and safety and getting your money, getting your deal. How do you now step up? How do you take your game a bit of a step further? Because the Bears are going to need it from you. I think that's going to be a big thing to watch this year from Kyler Gordon as well. And Jalen, we're just looking for Jalen to be Jalen. He's going to be more freed up as well. He's going to not just be used to shut down one side of the field. They're actually going to have him roaming out there a little bit more, which I think can make him even more dangerous in this Bears defense. And so look for Jalen Johnson as well to have a big year. I know a lot of people look at those takeaways. And with Jalen talking about the contract, even though the comments weren't that bad, you could tell people who didn't really read or comprehend the comments that he said. But I think when you look at that and potentially looking for another contract, it's all on you, my boy. It's all on you. So we'll see what he can bring. We'll see what he can do. But then let's look at the safeties, right? I think for the safeties, the question in that group, the biggest one, of course, is Jaquan Brisker's health. Does Jaquan Brisker stay healthy? And by staying healthy, what does that bring not only to the team, but clarity for his future here in Chicago? And those are things that he absolutely should be looking for, is to have that security, have that safety. But Jaquan Brisker has to stay healthy. He has to stay healthy. And if he doesn't, it's going to get ugly out there. And so, Jaquan and Kevin Byard offer such a unique duo in the fact that they both do a little bit of everything. They can be inside the box, outside the box. They can be lined up in coverage. They can be blitzed. Like, there's a lot of things that you can do with that. And we saw a glimpse of that last season. We saw a very small glimpse of that. I think now going into the season, Jaquan's playing a little bit more free. I think the injury and having football taken away from him has just done nothing but make him more hungry. Now we got to see how that hunger is going to pay off, but you have to stay healthy. Jaquan makes this team better. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jaquan Brisker makes the Chicago Bears a better defense when he's on the field. He just got to stay on the field. Last year was scary, and I'm sure that it had to bring some mortality into his mind as well with everything that happened. But Jaquan is a tough guy. He's a tough son of a bitch. He's a Chicago Bear by definition. He is a Bear, and you can feel that in the way that he carries himself, in the way that he plays the game of football, in the pride that he carries himself with. He's also one of the few Bears that actually talk shit to the Packers, right? So I love all that about Jaquan, but you got to stay on the field. And depth is also going to be a thing that's tested there as well. Like, the depth in the safeties is going to be important as well. Jonathan Owens, how good do you look in those times? Tasheem Johnson, how do you look as well? Elijah Hicks, we're going to be trying to see these guys. But Major Burns, keep an eye out for Major Burns. I think he's really there to make a name for himself in that secondary as well. I think he's going to be a guy that's trying to stick around, especially at being 6'2", 207 pounds, coming from the LSU defense. And considering that Kevin Byard is an older player, even if he does re-sign with the Chicago Bears, he is older. Look out for Major Burns in this thing, too. If Major Burns can do enough to not only make the final 53-man roster, but then start and look like a player that is going to be part of the safety plans going forward, hey, that's great. This guy's a takeaway machine when you look at it. And he also forces fumbles and can get to the quarterback and has a couple of sacks. He's another guy that I think when you look at the way Dennis Allen likes to call things, that he has some huge potential there to bring some things to the Bears that we need. So we'll see what's going to happen, man. Overall, we'll see what's going to happen. I'm really excited. Training camp's going on. We're getting actual football talk and conversation. We'll be talking about and covering the game in not too long from now as well. So things are really kicking up. Business is kicking up. But I also want to hear from you guys on this one. How do you guys feel in regards to the Chicago Bears? Not only what you heard earlier as far as the offense in training camp, things like that, but also the questions that you have for this. We talked about the offense. What are some of the bigger questions you have for the defensive side of the ball? Is the defensive end your biggest question there? Is it the interior defensive line? Is it somewhere in the cornerback? Is it the safety with Jaquan Brisker? Do you think that the Bears can weather another Jaquan Brisker storm? Do we have enough there? All those things are going to be questions here heading into this offseason for this, or to the regular season for this team. But we're right around the corner from football, people. We are right around the corner from football. And that is the most important thing. That is the biggest thing for me. That is the thing that I'm the most excited about. That's what gets me up and gets me excited every single day in talking about football, is getting to the actual football. And this team got a lot of talent on it this year. We were well coached as well this year. You know, that's the plan. That's why we brought in Ben Johnson and this coaching staff. We just got to see if the Bears are going to go out there and make it happen this year. I got some faith in it. We need to see it happen. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.